Hello there, great person, and welcome to this author's commentary of my story. I found some notes in the attic, they made me fear the garden. Well, this is kind of a clickbaity title because, of course, They Made Me Fear the Garden is a reference to the ending of the story only, and the story does not have to do much with a garden in any way. So yeah, this story is the oldest Ebrugh report I have currently. It's, I think, in 1876, yeah. So the framing of this one is there is some guy or girl and they moved into a new house in London, in Whalley, where there are some old mansions, and this is a mansion that has been rebuilt, so repurposed for to house several families, and they go to the attic and they play around and they find these strange notes, and that's the setting of this story. The original title was The Bile from the Earth, and yes, another possible title is The Waypine Asylum. So one of those fits, I think, but titles are hard to get in these because on No Sleep Reddit, of course, you want people to read it, so you have to do some clickbaity title perhaps a bit, but I think this one is quite suitable, so it wasn't too clickbaity. But I hope it made you interested in what happened in the garden, and we will find this out. So there's quite some lore in this one, so we might go over that, and I might give some hints about the lore, where the lore is, but I think in this one the lore is pretty obvious where it is. And so the idea, when did I get the idea? I wanted to write something that was like someone goes traveling and comes back and something is wrong, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where they went. I know that I think it was a bit like the scene in Cthulhu, and the story by Lovecraft, the first part where the policemen are looking at I don't know if you know the story. In this story, where Cthulhu is mentioned and where it appears in the end, it starts with policemen for various reasons going into the jungle, and they see some native people there dancing and doing rituals around this Cthulhu statue, and that was it. And I like that idea of some cult-like entity, and the cult-like entity really fits in this universe because there's more about the cult that is very briefly mentioned in this story in another one, and we will get around to that. It's not yet written, but I have planned it out with rough strokes, and I will probably write it in September or something like that when I have a bit time to really get into it, because it will be a bit more complicated, because that one will be lore heavy as well. So yeah, we start with this Edward Pines person. He's a lawyer, and yeah, this is perhaps also a fun fact you might enjoy. As you might know, the original stories are in German, and the German story is a bit higher quality, I feel, because in German, I can estimate how they would have spoken in those times. In 1876, you know, some a nobleman or a higher society person, they have another slang, you know, stuff like that. And in Germany, I can do that easily, and it was quite easy. But translating that was very, very hard, and I had a lot of trouble translating this one, and it took me a lot of time to translate this one, and I smoothed it out. So the problem with that is some of the meaning is getting lost, and of the realism probably. I mean, if you're a native speaker or if you're reading this in English and the story was believable, so I think a person asking me if this was a real story. No, it's of course not a real story. I mean, I found it, and I think it's connected to these other reports, you know. But so managed to convince someone that this might be real, but yeah, I think the German version is a bit more believable that it is real, because I really have some things there where you might think, yeah, he's talking like that and writing like that, he's a real person. And perhaps I managed to do this in this as well. I mean, let me know. I would be interested in that, but yeah, I was a bit critical of myself in that regard. And so Edward Pines, he's a lawyer, so it's about him. It's about him and his sister. And the next story that will be that I just recently published is about 2 siblings as well. I don't know, I think those are the only 2 sibling stories I have, actually. I don't know why I posted them back to back, but I don't know. So I think that's an interesting bond, brother, sister, and they have some conflicts. And yeah, so he's living in London. He's a lawyer, and he inherited it from his father, the firm he's working at, and he's successful. He's a well-known person. He's got a good reputation, and he really values his reputation. And I wanted to make him a bit having a bit of a stick up his rear, so to speak. And so he's had some conflicts with his sister, because his sister is not like him. She doesn't care for the higher society, and she has friends there, because in a way he probably pushed her into some of the friendships, and perhaps she likes some people there. And you see that when later on they dine together with the high society people. And so she's a bit floating around, perhaps sleeping around. That's not really clear, but might be. And she's traveling often, and he's only focused on her being not as he wants her to in regards to how she acts in her circles. So but she knows what she wants. She knows what she wants, and he, in a way, he admires her a bit for that, and he likes her. But they have conflicts there, and and here, this one as well, he's concerned for her, for the people that talk about him. And it's also several times in the story hinted that he's really trying to get his name clean, because obviously something happened, and at this point you don't know what happened, and something happened that tarnished his family name. He wants to set it right in the end, as we learn by the end of the story. So all this time they talk about, they are talking about us, and I don't like that. That I try to sprinkle it in there, so that that's important to him. So the ending is not that far off, that he wants to set it right in a way. So he didn't manage, obviously, to get the notes out of the house. He probably noticed that it was too late. He wrote them down, put them down, perhaps on a desk, whatever, and then they were forgotten there, and he went to the garden and did the things he said. So we will come to that. And the strange transformation of my sister. So of course, this is, if you know the story, this is literally, she transformed. And so she went to China, traveled there with her fiancé, actually. And it's not said in the story, but it was my idea that they were kind of they were probably planning to get married there. He was planning to propose to her on the trip somewhere down the line, if they really liked themselves. And the brother knows Benjamin Drumsman, the person she's with, as well, and I allude to that as well. So that was the background I had in mind, but it's not in the story, so you don't need to take that as canon, so to speak, But so she's back, and he's gone. Her friend there, he's not coming back, and she's strange. She picks her up at the port. She's strange. She's acting weirdly, and she's lost in thought. She doesn't know what's up with her, and so she goes to her room. She becomes reclusive, and something's obviously wrong. And you know what's wrong with her if you read the story. But something is obviously wrong with her. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do with a situation like this, so he's not used to this. Obviously, he normally takes care of it in another way. And he finally I think he some 3 days after she comes back, he knocks at her door, and he almost sees the shard that she took from the clearing. And so he says, let's invite some people over. And in a way, that's his solution still, because those are not the people she would probably like to be with, in a way, because it's probably more his friends than hers. But she knows some of them, and it makes her happy in a way. So she gets cheered up by that in the end, and it works. And that was a bit like, it's his style. What he would do. It seemed okay for him, and and yeah, so yeah, and she even invites them, not him. So he's a bit reluctant there. So I'm an idiot. I didn't write it that way. I should have written it that way, so that it is his idea. But yeah, it was her idea even. So perhaps some familiar faces that she wanted to see before the end, and yeah, so to get her mind off things, and then yeah, they have this feast, and then she looks at her hand, and she realizes she's turning. That's the point. That's the moment where she really realizes this is too late. I'm gone, you know. And yeah, someone actually in the comments suggested that she might amputate her finger. Wouldn't have worked. That would not have worked. And I answered it. So below this story, you can see what I said to that. And I mean, I suggested what it might be, and that's of course what it is. And yeah, so what exactly it is, I did not say, because I have something in mind that it is, and it's part of the bigger whole what it is that turns her. But yeah, so now it gets really bad. She has this wound where it gets all slippy, wet, and strange, and she's kind of turning into this being. Of course, we don't know that yet. So they ask the doctor. Doctor doesn't know, and then yeah, she's completely gone, and she wants to end her life, I think. And I mean, she's not a doctor, so she did not manage to, but she tries, and then yeah, they have to go to the asylum with her. She has to be sent to the asylum. And she goes there, of course, on the protests, but he sends her there, and it's the best asylum there. And I think Waypine Asylum actually exists. I'm not that sure, but I don't know. I might have made it up. It's so long ago. But yeah, so she goes there, and the maid is leaving, which is a bit of importance later when you see in the end, he doesn't remember the maid having left. And that's kind of a hint that he's slowly starting to degrade mentally, you know, but... yeah, so she's there. And then she suddenly says, yeah, hey, come here. I want to tell you what happened, because she knows it's over. And she knows it's over. She's made her peace with it. She has taken the past days that we've read here, where she's in her room, to think it over, to come to terms with what will happen to her. And she says that as well. And yeah, she tells about the travels, and she goes to China. And I liked setting it in China, because it was a bit more, you know, a Chinese tribe. You don't really hear that quite often, but there are many rural areas in China, and in those times especially. And yeah, so it's a foreign country, but the people seem to be nice, and they wander around, and then they get to the forest. So the forest. Yeah, here she says Benjamin stayed there. Yes, he stayed there. Yeah. So they go into the forest, and she loses him. She loses him. So he's in a hurry. I don't know why he's going there. Perhaps he's seen something, perhaps he's heard something, you know, rustling, but suddenly they're separated. Yeah, so he's gone, and she's alone, and she goes through the forest. And I actually always wanted to write a forest scene, you know. So this is my first forest scene that I wrote. So this is the third story I ever wrote in the horror department. The second one I have not yet published, and I will probably not publish for a long time, because I have to rewrite it, and it's quite hard to read. So if Widith 22 will read it, it will probably way down the line, because that's a hard one to read. It's a really hard one to read. So yeah, you will see Report 2 perhaps in half a year or later. So yeah, it's a good story, I think, but it's an unusual one. So yeah, this is my forest scene, and yeah, then she goes to the clearing, and there's the altar, and the hole is there. She discovers the hole. She discovers the shard, and she cuts herself with it accidentally. And perhaps it was not accidental, because as we see later with Edward, keys, cutting himself because he's kind of hypnotized, and she might have been as well. I mean, in this way, she recounts it, but she might be confused. So perhaps she was in trance as well. So yeah, then the altar is there, and the hole is there, and the hole is it's going down into the earth, and who knows what's there? Might be something, and I know what it is, and you also know what it is. You know what's down there. There are several things down there which you know of. And so she picks it up, she cuts herself, and then it starts. And she hears the people coming, she goes into the bush, she hides, and she sees Benjamin. And there's this cult-like tribe, and they are implied to be from a village, I think. Are they implied to be that? That's at least what I had in mind, that they were from the village where they also spent 3 or 4 nights. Let me see. No, it's not implied here, but that's what I had in mind. I mean, it's like the village where they stayed, so they knew that they were there, and they have to sacrifice them, so to speak, in a way. It's not really a sacrifice, they're just turning them. Doesn't mean that they die. And that's quite important, actually. They don't die. I mean, they turn, and it's what they're supposed to do, in a way. That's how they please. Yeah, and you know what they please, because it's written there in the text, and I will come to it. But yeah, so they are singing. They have him tied up. They bring him with them, and they carry him, and yeah. So, let me see that I put my... Okay. So, yeah. Anyway, and then Benjamin is there, and he says the thing here. That's kind of the key of the story, because this is the first time we see this. It's not the only time we will see that, of course, because these stories are called the Ebrugh Reports for a reason, but this is the first real mention of the name in the stories. So, yeah. So, and this, of course, this tells you everything you need to know about what is happening. And I will not talk about it further, but this what I've highlighted here is the solution to the story, so to speak, you know? In a way, it's telling you what happens. So they have this ritual, and they turn him into the creature. And the creature is actually something that I came up with when I tried to think of body horror that's not the usual body horror. Because of course the story is about body horror, of course. I mean, you've read it probably. I tried to make it a bit unique, because normally body horror is like you grow into an ape-like thing, or an insect, or your skin starts to do strange things, but turning into this slug-like thing, I thought that was quite disgusting and quite strange, and you are quite helpless as a stupid slug-like creature. And yeah, so that's why I had this in mind, because I thought I knew she would turn, and he would turn. I knew, but I didn't know what they would turn into. And then I thought what would be really disgusting and stupid and horrifying. I mean, stupid in a way, stupid to be that creature. And yeah, that was, you would become a very powerless creature driven by strange native people, or I don't know, just burrowing into the ground or whatever, you know? So, yeah. So, and then she reveals that she cut herself, and that's the reason why they turned. And there's an explanation why they turn when they are cut. And as I said, the comment I made under this story, it hints at what it is, why they are turning. And it's actually, yeah, I won't say that. I was gonna give something away that you were not, that you can find that out for yourself. There is a story where it gets clear what this is. At least it is hinted at what this might be. If you read that story, you will know what this is. I have hinted at it in this story already, but yeah. So, yeah, so he's, At this point, he thinks she's just mad. She has a disease, maybe, I don't know, some fever or whatever. She got it there, and now she's mad, and yeah. So he goes home, and then he looks for the stupid thing, and then he finds it, of course, and yeah. And the thing I wanted to do here is I wanted him to think logically about this, because if you find that, of course you don't just pick it up. So I wanted him to not pick it up, because it would have been so stupid, and I don't like people acting stupid in these stories. So there are 1 or 2 stories where people will act a bit stupid, but that's because they are written that way, I hope. Because I want to make it clear that there are stupid people out there, and they get what they have coming, because they poke whatever there is. And yeah, so then he gets the strange feeling, and then he touches it and cuts it himself, and then it's over for him. As soon as you cut yourself, okay, I will give that away. If you cut yourself with this shard, you will have about 2 seconds to amputate your limb or whatever. Then you might be safe. 2 seconds, perhaps 3. Then you might then cutting off your limb or whatever would work. 2 seconds, 2 to 5 seconds, probably more 2 seconds, more 2 seconds. Yeah, that's the information I can give you on that. And then you might know what it is. But yeah, so yeah, and then he has the spot, and it's turning into this strange substance in a way, and it's starting to get covered in slime and mucus and whatever. And he's turning as well, and yeah, he's he can't clean it. And I thought about him cutting it off, but it wouldn't have worked anyway in my mind, and it wouldn't have worked, and I didn't want I didn't want too much gore in a way, and he's and it wouldn't have mattered, so I didn't do it. Just if you are wondering why he didn't cut it off, because he seems to be quite an intelligent man in some places, but yeah, it wouldn't have mattered, and he probably instinctively knew that. And yeah, and for the story, it wouldn't have mattered. So if he cut it off, it would have been just blood, and I don't like senseless blood. I don't like that. So yeah, then he goes back to the asylum, and he, of course, is a bit clever. He takes he's wearing a glove, so she doesn't see that he's cut as well, and yeah, she's gone, and she escaped because yeah. So she has turned there. She just turned and she slid through this flap, this flap where they can push the food in, and she's escaped through that, and then through the bars and the floor, and then now they're hunting her down, and he says, yeah, you idiots, what did you do? And of course what were they supposed to know that this would happen? No, of course not. I mean, they are hunting her down, they find her trail, the trail of her body slithering over the ground, and yeah, they come to the river. They think she drowned, but she wouldn't drown in water anymore. That won't kill her. So, yeah, take that as you would, that information. So she wouldn't. So she just went into the river because she wanted probably she wanted something humid. Yeah, but why? Yeah, it's in the part that I marked where it's revealed why she's turned. So yeah, but it's not. I think you wouldn't get it from that. It will be in a later story, in a passing remark even, I think. But yeah, so she's gone. He thinks she's dead, and she just goes home. He starts turning, and then yeah, the end is of course. This where he starts to turn, and he knows he's turning. He's forgetting things. His bones are disappearing, and yeah, he's here forgetting things. He made some soup, and deliberately I let him eat soup. It's why he's eating soup is the same reason why she went into the river. So take that as you will. Just little hints again, and yeah, so then she's at the door, and of course she crawls over him, and then it's her last thoughts of her brother. So she loved him. So she wanted to see him one last time, and before her mind disappeared, because her mind is not needed anymore for what she's become. And the wording I used there is deliberate. So yeah, and here his memories start to fade, and he's seeing things. Yeah, his lungs are getting filled with a substance. Yeah, he says he will bury the shard in the garden. So that's why the person I introduced the story with doesn't want to go to the garden anymore, because if the person finds the shard and cuts herself or himself, sorry, then of course they would be, yeah. So that's why they are afraid of the garden, of course, and he plans on burying it and looking for a hole to end in, and yeah, he just buried himself in the ground and got down, because that's where he is supposed to go as this thingy, and this was deliberate wording as well. And yeah, so he goes down, and he's seeing these, this of course again heavy lore implications there. Yeah, then remembers his sister. And the last thing he says is that he saw his sister. So his thoughts are with his sister. He loved her. I mean, he's not married. He doesn't have a family outside of hers. So yeah, it's a bit sad actually. So yeah, and then he buries it with his last remaining consciousness, and he disappears as well. So okay, yeah, that was the story, and this is one of my only body horror stories. I think I'm not that good in writing body horror because I'm not that creative with it. I mean, this one I think was okay creatively, but because it was, I think, unique in a way. I hope. I don't know, of course. I mean, every thought has probably already been a thought. So yeah, but it was fun to write. In the original version, I had some fun with writing his dialogue because he sounded a bit like a snobbish British gentleman, of course. And yeah, the lore implications here are quite big. There is a lot of lore set up in this. And yeah, it's if you read the other or listen to the other stories, you will understand what the shard was, what exactly it was. And the description of the shard, the descriptions of the objects that are strange here in this story universe, that is quite important. But you already probably know that. Let me not give the hint too obvious. Look at this. Look at report 1 and this one, and find the similarities. They are quite closely linked in a way. Quite closely linked. So, if you've listened or read the Psychologist one, which is a translation mistake on my part, I realized it's supposed to be psychiatrist. Why I quit being a psychiatrist is the right translation. So I've posted this on the German Reddit as well, the German spooky Reddit, so to speak, and my German original version had psychiatrist instead of psychologist, the German word for that. So yeah, I messed up there. I'm sorry for that, but I mean, it doesn't take away from the story, I hope. And yeah, look out for more. The next one will be the dream one. I think the last story where there is a heavy focus on dreams. There will be dreams once or twice, of course, in other stories, but the Encounter in Siberia and the next story I've just published, they are the only two that use dreams. I didn't want to overdo it with the dreams. Dreams are very, very important, as I said before in the Encounter one, but they will not focus heavily except for the story I posted today. They will not, because I want to. The thing I'm doing for myself as well is a bit. I want to write stories that address many different types of fears, and some you might find not scary, some you might find scary. I think the one story that everyone will find scary probably is the one that I've already talked about in Multiscared, the one with the sleep paralysis. There is a story about sleep paralysis, and that is, for me personally, I think it's the scariest one. Besides two of the other Russian ones. Yeah, so perhaps you found this commentary entertaining. Perhaps you like the stories. If you do, check out the Reddit. It's linked. I will link it in the description. And also check out Vidith22's reading of the story. I'm sure he will do a wonderful job. I haven't heard it yet, but he's recorded it. He wrote me that he recorded it, and such a talented person. Such a talented person. I mean, I've listened to several horror readers, and he's the most talented one I've listened to. And Mr. Creeps as well, shout out to him. Of course, he's a 10,000 times bigger channel than me, but he also read my story recently, the one with Siberia, and yeah, thanks to him as well. So I got 1 subscriber from that, which is nice. So I'm now at 16. So we might get 20 by the end of the year. I hope we will. So that's. I think my goal is perhaps 20 till Halloween. So yeah, that would be quite nice. And yeah. If you have questions about anything, I mean, you can post it in the Reddit. You can post it below the stories in the Reddit, because the Ebrugh Reports Reddit that I created, you can ask questions there. You can ask about the stories. You don't have to pretend that they are real. You know, you have to pretend that they are real on No Sleep, and I hate that. I think that's stupid. I mean, it fits my style, because I always construct my stories in a way that they could be real. And I've based a lot of the stories on real events. So I will have something based on I don't know if you know about the sinkholes in Hillsborough County in the US. I based a story around that, and like the Russian stories, they take place in 1970 something, and I researched that. I mean, even the moon phases will match the real ones. So I try to make them as real as possible, but of course they are fake. And if you don't want to pretend that they are real, and you don't have to do that at the Ebrugh Reports Reddit, feel free to ask anything. And yeah, and if you don't like something, I'm interested in that as well, of course. I mean, I know that my English is not the best for publishing stories, because it's not perfect. And when I read stuff, because I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, and I know that I like to read stuff that's not perfectly written, you know, as from a grammar and spelling standpoint, and yeah, the commas and all of that. And I'm not that good in that, and so I'm sorry if that bothers you. I try my best, but I don't have an editor. If I had one, I think the quality would improve a bit more, but I'm doing my best. I mean, I can only do this in my free time. I don't have that much free time currently, as you might have noticed, because, I mean, Solo Leveling hasn't come out in 3 weeks now, and I finally found the music I want to use. It's music that is free, that is not intrusive, and I will use that for the episodes. And the next one, the next episode of Solo Leveling, the reading will be, I think it will be till 20, because I've not done it in a long time. Perhaps I will do it in 2 parts, so 2 videos, but it will come out soon, because I'm really behind on that, and I'm sorry that I'm behind on that, but yeah, it has been difficult finding the right music, and I couldn't just find the time to look it up. But I've rambled on enough. If you like the story, if you have questions, just write them in the comments, and yeah, if you want to listen to the story, I will link Vidith 22's narration there. And yeah, I hope that you have a happy, scary day. And remember, don't poke the ghost, don't poke the entity, don't cut yourself on strange porcelain shards. So yeah, take care of yourself and see you around, hopefully. Bye.